Yamani, very good afternoon, ladies who are seated here. For the first time in my life, I've felt alone in a room full of people. This is just to highlight how it feels to be in the minority. And you being ladies, you have been in the minority situations for most of your lives, but you have broken the glass ceiling. You have risen beyond the societal chains and shackles that have been put onto you. You are CPAs, you are accountants, and for that just is a highlight of the sheer strength and power of what we call a woman. Salute you. To introduce myself, as my moderator has already said, my name is Innocent Yonazi. I currently work as the head of investor relations as well as sustainability governance, but I also support the CEO from a business planning perspective in her office. My key responsibilities encompass the strategic liaison between the bank and the myriad of shareholders that we have. We all know that NMB Bank is a public listed organization, so for that reason we have to continue to ensure that in line with our reporting obligations as well as our continuous listing obligations, we communicate to these stakeholders and shareholders at large, and I am tasked with that responsibilities. Just to highlight, today is not about me. It is about a woman that has already been introduced. I am pretty certain most of you know her. Her name is Ruth Zaipuna. And for me to stand here to talk about ethics in her absence, for those who are keen readers of the Word of God, if you can remember, there is a word that says, remember your leaders who have taught to you the Word of God. Remember their ways of life and imitate their faith. For somebody to be standing in front of people to talk about you in your absence, we say in absentia, regarding your ethical and moral conduct, it requires first and foremost you to be able to embody and to be able to epitomize that level of ethical standard as well as morality. Because just try to imagine, choose any other ethical person that you think in your mind, especially from previous history, and you're told, stand in front of people, try to give a keynote about how moral and ethical they are. I am sure if you will not struggle for words, you will lie. But today, I stand here with great conviction because I believe what I'm going to say. I have seen it in action. I worked with Ruth at Standard Chartered. I am working with her at NMB. And if there's one leader that we can all say with absolute certainty and without division of debate, she embodies that ethical standards. So let me not belabor on showering her with so many praises with ethics, but let me dwell onto the topic. So the moderator asked me a question, does ethics pay? That is the question that we all ask ourselves. What is the importance of this topic, so-called ethical standards, morality, and professionalism? There's a famous author, an American author called Zig Ziglar. He said in one of his famous writings that ethics and integrity, yes, they are not only the single important things that can make you as a leader, but without ethics, you will never be one. No matter how good you are, no matter how educated you are, to be a leader at one particular time, your certificates will be on the one side, your professional background will be on one side, and what you'll be judged as, whether to elevate you to the next step of leadership, is purely on your ethical standards. And this is more so important for women. Why am I saying that ethics is more so important for women? It is ethics, it is important for men. But controversially, and some of you might think it's a truism, that women are hurled into a very higher moral standard than men. Just try to imagine there is a research that shows, and it says, and these are the words that I quote, that women have held very high moral standards. Men have held very high double standards. Whatever you can do as a woman, I can get away with it, but sometimes you cannot. These are the realities of the society we are living in. Men are exonerated from a number of ethical standards that a female doing the fraction of it, the society will persecute, will judge, and will condemn for the rest of her life. That is the reality of the genetic makeup as well as the gender lens that is bestowed onto woman from history up to now. So is it a bad thing? I would say no. It is not a bad thing per se. Because, by sheer creation of God, we are all believers here of God, a woman is the guardian of morality. We all know that. A woman is the guardian of morality. Why is the woman a guardian of morality? A woman is a guardian of morality. If we go back to the books, we will see in most cases in history, men are very much highly regarded for the transformation they've done, for the faith they have shown. But when we talk about women of faith, we tend to link them directly to their level of ethical standards. The same actions that were done by, let's say, King David in the Bible, if that was a woman, today there would not be story and revelation of King David the way we regard him. But because women are the custodians, are the guardians of ethics, we have to care, we have to ensure that we live by those ethical standards. So I said, let me give that introduction so that at least we set the ground running. I did not come with presentations because today's topic is not about presentation. I want to leave the room for you guys to debate and to interact so that you may know Ruth as if she was here, but she has requested me to represent her to provide this keynote. So we have asked ourselves, do ethics really matter in professional conduct? The answer is simple, yes. We are all here seated accountants. We remember there was one CFO of Enron. The CFO of Enron is a classic case study on why ethics matter in professional conduct. There's a video that we have watched, and I really encourage you to watch. The CFO of Enron, in one of the TED Talks, a woman was giving this keynote, and she said, when she visited the CFO of Enron, or actually when she watched the video of the CFO of Enron, Mr. Andrew Fastow, the CFO was holding on one hand his CFO of the Year certificate, but on the other hand, he was holding his prison sentence. Meaning, he was once a brilliant CFO, leading a company that was in asset value of more than 60 billion US dollar. To put it in context, that's almost the size of a GDP of many African markets. But what went wrong? He became unethical, people lost jobs, the company went bust, economy grappled, and legislations were formulated just to ensure that we don't succumb to the same level of accounting misconduct. So one person can shift from being a glorified CFO in one day, holding their certificate as the CFO of the year for that company, and the next thing, just by crossing a thin line of what we call ethics, can find themselves with chains in jail. So ethics just prove to us that yes, while technical competence can take you a stage up to 1 to 3, but ethics can sustain that level of growth. So to Ruth, ethics is what embodies a leader. Ethics is what embodies a true and an admirable champion of conduct. That is with regards to ethics. But she said to me, there may be people there sitting and asking themselves, when you say ethics, what do you mean? There's no universal definition of ethics, isn't it? Ethics is it's a moral principle. For those who studied jurisprudence, they will understand me. When we get into things which are philosophical, it sometimes becomes subjective. But we say to ourselves, let's draw inspiration from one among a morality leader during the 19th century. Her name was Ellen G. White. And she gives a very good definition of what we deem to encompass the 3 principles of ethics, morality, as well as professionalism. So Ellen G. White talks about ethics, she talks about morality. And in simple words, if I may remember, because I'm a little bit nervous standing here in front of you, she says, the greatest want of the world is the want of men. And in this context, I'll put women. When she said men, she did not only limit it to men figuratively, or literally. So she said, the greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who cannot be bought or sold. Men who in their innermost souls are true and honest. Men who do not fear to call sin by its rightful name. But more importantly, men who are true to the duty as needle to the pole, and men who will stand for the right even if heavens fall. This is the definition of ethics. Does anybody remember it? Let me repeat. The greatest want of the world is the want of men. Men who cannot be bought or sold. So it means there will never be a situation where your integrity can be bought. So simply put it that way. Men who cannot be bought or sold. Men who in their innermost souls are true and honest. So here we're talking about how true you should be, as Brenda has said, and how honesty you should be throughout your career, throughout your life. But more importantly, men who are true to duty as needle to the pole. Brenda spoke of job and work. So here we're just summarizing to talk about how committed are you to the purpose and why you will never allow anything to come between you and your purpose that is God-given. But most importantly, men who are not afraid to call sin by its rightful word. Men who will not and are not scared to call sin by its rightful name. Meaning, when you see something is wrong, you really tremble with indignation. It means that you will not side with those who are doing wrong. But more importantly, men who will stand for the right, even if heavens fall. It means there will never be a situation where you, as a female leader, where you, as an accountant, you will be put to compromise on your ethical standards just under the presumption that you are subscribing to a particular thought. So you will stand for what is true, even if heavens fall. So in a nutshell, to Ruth, that is the definition of ethics. But some may put it further and say, okay, somebody has been ethical. We are accountants. How do we make it matter? I work in the investor relations, and I believe I will not be doing justice if I live here simply by uttering words to you. Allow me to introduce numbers. There is a research done in the USA by S&P. It's called When Women Lead, Firms Win. Whoever has a phone, please Google it before you forget. I'm giving you a window of 1 minute to Google it. It's a powerful research. When women lead, firms win. Has anybody found it? Oh, when female lead, firms win. S&P 500, they did this research in the US. These are the biggest of corporations in the world. You found it? Yes. So this research, practically what it tells us, it aligns to what we are all standing here today to discuss. Why are female leaders powerful? I said earlier, women are the guardians of morality, and the society appreciates that. When female are given an opportunity to lead, the society reacts. Let it be the customers, let it be the shareholders. There is a great sense of trust bestowed unto women. We might not say it more often as men, but trust me, we trust you very much so. So what are the results of this research? This research shows in the first 24 months, when a female CEO or CFO, they are being given an opportunity to run these companies, the S&P companies, profitability rises by more than 6%. The stock price rises by more than 24%. Or actually, it's the other way around. Profitability, 24%. Stock price by more than 6%. Why is that so? And has it been empirically evident in our market? So today we are talking about a woman who we, in all intents and purposes, we can all agree that she embodies that body of ethics. Ruth, her brand is pretty much sometimes reduced to that mama wa NMB, yule mama mlokole. That tells you that there is an ethical brand that has been created over the years. I was speaking to mama yangu pale, Professor Temu, because I know she lectured Ruth when they were at the University of Dar es Salaam. Nikamuuliza mama, na Professor Temu ni mama yangu kweli, nikamuuliza mama, naomba uniambie, why are you so proud to be associated with Ruth? Why did you choose to mentor her throughout her career? And the answer was simple. She said it was because of her ethical and moral standards. University of Dar es Salaam, more than 1,000 students graduate. So a certificate will not distinguish you from the rest. A CPA might not distinguish you from the rest. How many CPA holders do we have in this country? Female CPA holders, 3,000. So to create a brand purely by saying that I hold a certificate, it will be difficult. But to create an ethical brand whereby people revere you and respect you, even in your absence before you introduce yourself as an ethical person, that is a very sustainable way of creating your brand. So let us link the research that is done by S&P to the results that we have seen at NNB. Ruth celebrated her 4 years anniversary this year. For those who are reading newspapers, you might have seen it. And one among the things that we are very much proud of, and I'm standing here in front of you, I am very proud of what she has achieved as a woman, because I'm a firm believer in the role of a woman in a society and in an economy. So Ruth took over NNB in 2020. Profitability of NNB, and you can see this in our annual report, in 2018, we take that as a baseline. NNB was performing at a profitability of 98 billion. 98 billion. Ruth started acting as CEO. She was then CFO. She started acting in 2019. When she took over as acting CEO in 2019, we moved from 98 billion to 142 billion. And I'm not standing here to say she did it alone, but what I'm trying to highlight to you is when you're an ethical leader, you become an authentic leader, you become a transformational leader. Those who know the theories of leadership, to be a transformational leader, you have to be ethical. So to transform an organization, first and foremost, the key ingredient is ethics. If you are doing things which are wishy-washy, you cannot tell me anything about strategy because I know you are trying to do something for yourself. But when you speak about strategy in an ethical lens, it means I believe in the overall broader vision, and the strategy execution becomes much more disciplined. So from 98 billion to 142 billion 2019. In 2020, at the height of COVID, and NNB was an anomaly across the global banking sector. While the banking revenues were going down, the profitability for the banking sector across the globe was going down, NNB Bank grew 45% year on year and closed the year with 206 billion Tanzania shillings. It became the first bank in the history of the Tanzanian banking sector to ever cross the 200 billion mark profitability levels. A woman has done that. Not only a woman, an ethical woman who believes that things to be run ethically is the way to go. From 206 billion in 2020, in 2021, NNB Bank closed the year with 242 billion TZS shillings. At all this time, NNB Bank became the #1 bank in Tanzania from a profitability point of view. 2022 came another growth from 242 to 290 billion. Again, #1 position cemented NNB's position not only in Tanzania as the #1 bank here, but within East African community, NNB Bank, for the first time, a Tanzanian bank became within top 3 best performing banks in East Africa. So that is 290, but there was more to come. Year 2023, actually 2022, we closed with 452. We closed with 400, yes, over 400 billion. And then year 2023 now, NNB Bank was able to deliver the highest profitability levels ever to be delivered in this sector here in Tanzania. 542 billion TZS shillings. This positioned NNB Bank as top 3 banks within the East African community and solidified NNB position as the #1 bank here in Tanzania. But I am saying all this in her absentia. If she was here, she will tell me, Dogo, acha haya mambo yako kuongelea namba. She does not like to talk about numbers because Ruth, I will tell you with certainty, she is somebody who lets the world elevate her, not for her glory, but for the glory of God she saves. So 542 billion. There we have proven without any doubt that profitability levels with ethical leadership, transformational leadership can be achieved. But we are a listed firm, isn't it? We are a listed bank. Ruth took over, the share price for NNB Bank was 2,340. Currently, we are speaking at 5,400 TZS. So this means it's a delta of more than 400 increment from a baseline year of 2020. So the share price has jumped by almost 400%. S&P, they said 6%. In Tanzania, through ethical leadership, through transformational leadership, through professionalism, we were able to deliver as a bank more than 400 capital gain to our shareholders. So ladies, as I wind up my keynote, I would just like to highlight and to emphasize that you cannot segregate a woman from the societal as well as professional expectations of ethics. While ethics may be drawn a line between what somebody is doing in their personal life from a male perspective, but for a woman, the line is very thin and sometimes intertwined. Your private life has an implication in your professional life. Your ethical standards as a mother, as a sister, as a wife, the society is busy watching and sometimes unfairly so, judging, simply because you are a woman. Unfortunately, those are the realities of our life. Thank you so much, and I will welcome many questions.
Naomba tuongeze makofi jamani. Makofi jamani. Naomba Innocent utupe muda kidogo wa kuendelea kureflect na kuuliza maswali na kucomment, lakini allow me kuwaomba sana CPA na participant wote tusimame, tumpigie makofi huyu minority ambaye amekaa katikati yetu toka asubuhi. Lakini pia kuweza kudeliver an excellent keynote speaking. This is for you, Innocent. You really deserve all this. You are very humble, full of humility, but a very intelligent person who have really proved beyond that you deserve whatever you have and more is to come. Thank you very much. Have a seat.
Amen.
Jamani, me, I was like, wow. And the blessed is the mother who have this son. Actually, what actually moved me quite a lot is the way he understands his organization. He has talked about ethics, but also he has showed us what does excellence means. Wapendwa, excellence is one of the value of TAWCA. And if we want a definition of excellence, the way he has been able to define ethics, look at Innocent. He has shown us the trend of his organization. He was not reading from anywhere. Sasa wewe ukiulizwa, hivi nyie mwaka jana mahesabu yenu mlifunga na net profit ya ngapi? Uko Na wewe ni director of finance. Wewe ni head of organization. Ukiulizwa, what is the ratio ya your income ratio iko ngapi? Mwaka mmoja tu Charlie. Lakini amegrow the trend for 4 years from profitability and from the capital gain. Sisi kama shareholders tunaangalia capital gain. Na tumeona namna ambavyo anaianalyze. Lakini pia our own Madam Ruth has proved beyond the survey that you can grow the profitability of the organization by 500 in 2 aspects. Profitability, nilikuwa napiga mahesabu hapa, nimeona kwamba imepanda 499%, lakini capital gain of 500%. Can you imagine? But the demonstration of the ethics, wote tunamjua Ruth, the way she carry herself. Ungekuwa mtu mwingine ukikutana nawe hata kusalimia usalimii, ungekuwa mabega yako juu. Amesema our personal life has everything to contribute, especially for women. How you carry yourself. Watu watakuchukua, watapenda kukumenta, the way you portray yourself. Nani ambaye hataki kujihusisha na dhahabu jamani? Nani ambaye hataki kuvaa vitu vya dhahabu? When you are demonstrating potential, everyone will want to support you. So ladies, we have received a very good keynote speaking. But if you were to forget everything, remember the definition of ethics. And I've kept 4 points. Without ethics, you will never be a great leader. You can be a leader, but what will sustain you is actually ethics. It is very easy for men who are good at double standard, But for us women, we don't have any choice. Moral standard is our own. He has said if you have to answer on whether the ethics pay, look at this guy holding one hand a certificate of a best CFO, best CEO, but on the other hand, a certificate of sentence to go in the prison. Women who cannot be bought or sold. Are we here? Actually, women who are not afraid to call sin by its rightful name. Are we here? Women who will stand for the right, even if the heaven fall. Are we here? It takes courage to do that. Over to you, colleagues, for questions, reflection to this very sweet keynote speak. Thank you very much, Innocent. Naomba zile mic zipite. We receive our first 3 questions or reflection. Please give us your name and where you're coming from, and let's hear from your question. And after 3 rounds of questions, we'll give Innocent the platform and see whether we have any other. Over to you. Ladies, CPAs, ethics, the women who cannot be bought or sold. Dada Bahati upo? I'm looking for the hands. If you don't raise your hand, I'll pick you. Thank you. At the corner, another one, the second one. Over to you.
Thank you. Catherine Ruge, the Secretary General for Chadema Women Wing. First of all, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Innocent for a wonderful presentation. Indeed, you have made Madam Ruth proud. I have 2 questions. One, there are these tendencies in our community, especially not only Tanzania, but Africa. That tendency of looking down to women leaders. Our society doesn't believe women can be leaders. So I just would like you to share the experience. What will happen when Madam Ruth was appointed as the Managing Director of NMB? What was the response, especially from men? And the second question goes, you have really done well in our banking sector. NMB have been trend setters for the past 5 years. And according to your presentation, is as a result of Madam Ruth leadership and management. I was wondering if you can share, how did she manage to transfer the excellence, the ethics, and the integrity culture from top management to bottom, to that lower level employee like mlinzi, mfanya usafi, kwa sababu for that kind of performance to happen, it's not about one person. It has to do with the whole team, the whole organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those great questions. Another reflection? Innocent, you can take those ones when we are still digesting, or we have another one.
Good evening. My name is Kulthum Juma. I work with Ministry of Finance. Mr. Innocent, please, if you may share any ethical dilemma you have ever encountered in your profession, please.
Yes. There is another question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Innocent. My name is Anna Victor from IIA Tanzania. I think my questions will be adding to the previous person who asked about the ethical dilemma. Mine will be specific. I just want to ask, in case you are that ethical person, but you find yourself in the midst of an ethical culture organization, what will you do? How should you react? Because we understand probably, yes, as much as you're a leader, but you can be in a different level in the organization. Now, finding yourself in the midst of unethical colleagues or generally an ethical organizational culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Innocent, very good question. There's one colleague I was confronting when I heard about her practices and the way I knew her, and she told me, "Madam, sometimes if you cannot fight them, join them and die there." Innocent, over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the wonderful questions. And just to begin to address the question that was raised by Dada Catherine, so I really appreciate for the good complimentary words you have given and to the keynote delivery that I've done. Thank you so much. And you have asked, the first question is about the African context and the cultural norms of men as well as the society looking down on female, especially female leaders. How do we address this, and what was Ruth's experience and how did she go about it? In my interactions with Ruth, she always says one thing: competence is confidence. Competence is confidence. Nobody can look down on you if you're competent. Nobody can look down on you if you're confident. When she took over as the first female CEO for the largest bank here in Tanzania, NMB, she not only, as Brenda has alluded earlier, she faced with a number of challenges akin to what any other female leader will face. These are the realities of our society, isn't it? So she became the first female leader, especially Tanzanian. In the banking sector, there were a very minority few who were running organizations. She was coming from a CFO background, not from a business background. There are those who said, let's see what a CFO will do. We know of those words. But two things that Ruth stood by is her level of competence, because Ruth worked at PwC as a director of audit. She worked for Standard Chartered Tanzania as CFO and executive director within the finance department, but she was leading the finance transformation department at Standard Chartered in East Africa, and then she became CFO for NMB before she became CEO. Simply because you're a man, it does not mean that you are more entitled to become CEO better than her. That is as simple as that. She was already prepared to become a CEO, meaning she was not prepared in terms of her mind, but she was prepared in terms of her level of competence. She has been a CFO for many years. She's a CPA. She is learned. She is transformational. So that level of competence is what gave her confidence. And as Brenda said, I really liked what she said, do not allow the society shackles to be put onto you. Do not allow that. We know throughout history there are women who have done some remarkable things, but they did those things simply by closing their eyes to all the negativity. So just embrace the works that you have been called to do by your God, and more importantly, just embrace the competencies and your capabilities. Your position as a woman is not a disadvantage. Actually, it's an advantage, because from a leadership perspective, a woman has some of the traits that we male might struggle to find. Some research shows empathy is one among the things. So all those traits that are embodied in a woman, actually they should give you an advantage to venture forward. And I believe that's what Ruth did. I've tried to text her to say, Madam, napigwa maswali ukunomba nikupigie. She has not responded. So let's see. On the question of ethical dilemma. No, the second question you spoke about the banking performance. Not for once, and I know this for certainty because I work closely with Ruth. I work for the bank there. We write things that go out and so on and so forth. Ruth, if there's one thing that she does not appreciate and she does not like, is for anybody to elevate her and say NMB is because of Ruth. I will tell you that that is something that she will not accept. Ruth says, whatever you see at NMB is a byproduct of collective vision and collective efforts. She believes in her team. She believes in the value and the input that is put across our network of 230 plus branches, as well as the people at headquarters. She values each employee the same, and she values their contribution. There is one interesting statistic. By the time Ruth was joining NMB, the costs breakdown for the bank, if we look at the total costs, so the percentage of staff costs, in comparison to total costs, was almost at an average of 47%. So total costs, ukichukua staff costs, ukaangalia pale as a percentage of total costs, ilikuwa ni at around 47%. Ruth said, invest in your people, they will invest in you. She believes in people. She's an avid believer of the value that people bring in a company. So through strategic investments in HR, in people capabilities, learning and development, employee welfare and benefits, now we are speaking at more than almost 58% staff cost as a percentage of total cost. This is to show you the commitment that as a leader she has in her people. So as an MB bank, as a bank, we're investing more in people than we're investing in any other strategic investment. That is just to show you the value that she puts in people. So just to answer your simple question in these lines, you ask, what is it that we have done and we have seen being done at NMB that has shifted the dial and transformed the bank into the market leader? I remember looking at the strategy from when we started the transformation journey at NMB. One among the things that she said, this was in her speech, she said, I want to lead NMB to become, and these are the words that I like so dearly, she said, NMB to become a performance-driven organization and purpose-led. Meaning, as a bank, we have to have a keen sense of purpose, and performance has to be part and parcel of our key culture and strategy. So she said, we are not going to go for blind pursuit of profitability, but we have to have a purpose. And our purpose as an organization is to act as a socio-economic vehicle for development in Tanzania. Profitability will come. We have to ensure that we engrave the deep sense of strategy execution with discipline, and performance will come. But we must be known as an organization that adheres to the highest level of ethical and conduct culture. And that is why we revised our values as a bank. Integrity form part of NMB's core values. And this is just to show to you how much weight we are putting in ethics and conduct as one among the core transformational values at that bank. And for that reason, I would like to highlight to you, we have been recognized as a bank as the safest bank here in Tanzania by global accredited magazines, but also NMB is renowned as the best ESG conforming bank here in Tanzania, but the Tanzania revenue authorities have recognized NMB 2 years in a row now as not only the largest taxpayer in this country, but the most tax compliant organization. That speaks to ethical leadership. So the transformation of NMB, just to put in simple words, it's a collective effort delivered under the sense of a collective vision. It is not a one person's doing, but ethical leadership is what gives us that sense of clarity and purpose on where we're heading. We need a driver, and she is our driver. So that at least guides us and gives us clarity. So you have asked about, somebody has asked about ethical dilemma, whether she has faced ethical dilemma. I think this question, if I was to be asked, I would have answered myself. If that question was directed to me, I would have highlighted the ethical dilemmas I've faced. But as a leader, I will not go into details. I don't know her that much, I should say. She is my boss, and she does not speak to me everything about her career. But I believe she must have faced ethical dilemmas. Ethical dilemmas are part and parcel of leadership. There is a famous saying that says, the path of those who are bestowed with leadership is not easy. You have to grapple with a number of dilemmas. You have to grapple with a number of conflicts. You have to grapple with a number of conflicting views and interests. So there has to be ethical dilemmas that she has faced. But one thing that she normally says in our engagements, she says, I live my life in a sense that if tomorrow morning I wake up and find whatever that I've been doing in the previous day and throughout my life is in front of a newspaper, I will be able to live with my life with no shame. That is her ethical standard. Meaning, ishi maisha yako in such a way kwamba, ukijikuta kesho kwenye gazeti, front page, on what you have done, will you be able to live with yourself? She says she can, because she believes the decisions and the actions she takes for the organization and in her private life, she says they just go further to highlight that she is committed to ethics, she is committed to morality. And that's how I was going to answer that question on ethical dilemma. The last question is, what if it happens you find yourself in an ethical organization? As I said earlier, Ellen G. White said, men who will not be afraid to call sin by its rightful name, men who will stand for the right even when heaven falls. Trust me, there has never been in history, though we call them corporations, we call them people, there has never been a corporation that has been taken to jail. People are taken to jail. So the decision is yours to sit in a place where it stinks with unethical practices and behaviors, because the repercussions will not only be on that organization, will be on you personally, and the consequences you will suffer, you, your family, and the people that are so dear to you. So if you find yourself in a situation where your moral principle or your moral code is pretty much put to test, flee. Leave. Because the repercussions are severe. So that's how I would answer that question. Thank you so much.
Jamani, makofi hayo hayatoshi. For those TAWCA members, how many are you in book club? Please, can I see your hands in the air? Thank you very much. The last book that we read is 48 Laws of Power. And law number 5 is guard your integrity with your own life. Because you can intimidate, you can lead, you can aspire, you can crush your enemies through your reputation. If you don't have reputation, you cannot stand. Thank you very much, Innocent, for all those reflection and responses to the good question that we had. We have another round. I can take another 2 or 3 questions, but you can also reflect. I like the way he is responding to the questions, not only going direct, but also reflecting and actually giving experience from where he has worked and the way he has seen Ruth Zaipuna. We have learned today about support system. I think Ruth has really grown the support system around him, around her. I was looking at him and I was like, wow, if this is one of a person in the SMT, I think she's good. We are good to go, ladies.
Asante sana. Naitwa Bahati Geuze, Rasi Mtwara, CPA. Nadhani naweza kuuliza kwa Kiswahili, si ndio? Innocent anaelewa Kiswahili? Sikumbuki ulikuwa unawasilisha kwa Kiingereza Kiswahili. Yes, nitaka niulize Innocent about succession plan at NMB. Yes. If it's not something that is a secret. What is the succession plan like for the CEO? Why am I asking this? It's something that we usually talk about, and of course there is a lot of literature about it, and we see challenges in applying it in some institutional settings. So the institution can continue very well under certain leadership, but if anything happens, God forbid, or maybe even change of maybe this CEO may wish to transfer to another organization, what are the plans? If you can share with us. Thank you.
Mheshimiwa Ras, naomba nikujibu kwa Kiswahili ili niweze kukuonyesha kwamba nakijua vizuri.
Innocent, hebu subiri kidogo. Kuna swali lingine? Tuchukue swali lingine hapo. Tuchukue kama matatu, labda tutakuwa tunafungia hayo. Asante sana kwa swali zuri, Bahati.
Asante. Mimi naitwa Pili Kabesha. Swali langu ni kuwa nauliza, what are the best way to reward for the best ethics conducts? Ni hapa nachomaanisha ni kwamba unakuta mtu ana ethics nzuri katika organization, zinatokea circumstances ambazo zina let down, labda unakuta ni young yani ndo katika taasisi anajituma, ikatokea labda hajawa appreciated, hajawa recognized, anarudi nyuma. Sasa as a society to have more ethical society, what are the best way to recognize ethical conduct? Thank you.
Another one? Your hand in. Thank you very much. Neema, can we give, oh no, we have another one and we'll take yours.
So I wanted to ask.
Your name please and where you are working.
Okay, my name is Frederica Tesha. I'm working with Amref Health Africa, an NGO. My question is regarding to the products that banking industry have, and especially the NBA and NMB that makes that huge profit. I understand there is this interest that you are collecting from some withdrawals, and also you have some investments, but I don't think that is the only products that you have that makes you to have that huge profit. Thank you.
Thank you. Neema? Daktari wetu. Tuna daktari mwangapi jamani? Neema, hebu simama tukufagilie. Neema is also aspiring CPA Dr. Neema Kiure Msusa, our own chairperson. Hebu mpeni makofi yake jamani. Thank you very much. Naomba ulize swali lako daktari.
Thank you. Probably more of a reflection in what we are doing.
Thank you.
From the topic of ethics, integrity, professional ethics and integrity specifically. Because as accountants, we remember that our code of ethics was amended to include the NOCLA, non-compliance with laws and regulations. Now, the requirement of NOCLA requires us as accountants, auditors, anyone with CPA. Wende mwenyewe ukaripoti kwa regulatory authorities, pale ambapo kuna continuous non-compliance with laws and regulations, mahali upo. Whether you're acting as an auditor, as an accountant, anything, as a member of the audit committee and everything. But the challenge we are getting now from the board point of view, technical committee point of view, for all the years, hamna mhasibu yote ambaye amenyanyuka na kusema jamani huku kwangu hakufai. Sio internal auditor, sio at least external auditors, sio external auditors, sio accountants, sio members of audit committee. Then I get to ask myself, we get to ask ourselves, are we really that ethical? Sometimes as an external auditor, I say like, okay, if I report, I'll lose business, As accountants, wanajiuliza hivyo hivyo, anakuambia, nikiripoti alafu nitakula wapi? Internal auditors, they are facing the same. So maybe we should ask ourselves, is ethics and integrity, you know, these are the core values kwenye our code of ethics, code of conduct, do we really believe in them? Are they real? I think wote tukijiangalia hapa, we can see non-compliances, whether it is with the TRA, social security, some laws and regulations, hapa na pale, you see the non-compliances. You see them in TRA reports, and the questions they are bringing to the board is, where are the auditors? Where are the accountants? So my question is, where are we?
Thank you very much, Dr. Neema. Innocent, over to you. Unless we have any other burning question. Yeah, we have one here. Thank you for that reflection and challenge, Neema. Wanasema if you cannot fight them, join them. And mostly we join them and die. Go ahead.
Thank you, Anna. I just want to piggyback on Pili's.
Please, your name and where you're coming from.
My name is Donasia. I am from Cortax Africa. I just want to piggyback on Pili's question. What is the KPI to actually measure ethics? Because in most organizations, the key value drivers are actually profit. So if you're actually profit-driven, then you really end up with a very thin line between being ethical and driving results. So how do you measure ethics? And to add on her question is, how do you reward ethical people? Thanks.
Thank you so much. I think, let me start with that question. As I said earlier, we do not have a blind pursuit of profitability. That's from the onset, that's our strategy, that's our commitment. What we have as an institution is we are performance-driven and purpose-led. Meaning, performance is a keen interest of ours because we are a commercial entity for profit. We are listed, we have to drive shareholder returns. We have to drive shareholder value. But we will not follow a blind pursuit of profitability. And this is where ethics come in. Among our business models, and if one of you get time to read our annual report, we categorically state that we will take every decision and every action at NMB with a long-term view. Long-termism is pretty much instilled within our decision-making framework as an institution. As a leader, Ruth as CEO, the executive management team, the board, and even us that are charged with certain responsibilities there. The framework that governs our decision-making process is a long-term view for the interests of the company, the shareholders, and other stakeholders. There will not be one decision whereby things will be done for subjective reasons, that I, Yonazi, want to do A, B, C, D, so that I can benefit X, Y, Z. Because that is short-termism, that is subjective way of thinking. But we make our decisions as a bank, and profitability now comes as a byproduct of those decisions that we're making. So that long-termism is one among the core principles that governs our decision-making process from an ethical point of view. Secondly, the purpose. We are a purpose-led organization, meaning that we are committed to serve a greater purpose, meaning to ensure sustainable value creation to all our shareholders and stakeholders, meaning that the interests of the company and the interests of those stakeholders are paramount compared to individual interests, because that's where the ethical line is drawn. When you do something for your own good, that is unethical, provided it's within the business context. That is unethical. But when you do something for the benefit of the company, even if sometimes it may be deemed to be some sort debatable, but if you feel that this thing is for the interest of this company and you can stand by it, it's for the interest of the myriad of shareholders and stakeholders that you have. That is the ethical test that you put within the decision-making framework. So I just wanted to highlight that we do our things with a keen sense of ensuring that we deliver that purpose, meaning sustainable value creation, as well as the interests of the myriad of stakeholders that we have. So that is on the aspect of, are we driven by performance only? So let me highlight to you about how is our performance management system at NMB. The performance management system at NMB measures not only the what, it measures the how. Meaning, you might be, let's say you are a relationship manager. You have achieved 100% of your targets. Let's say on the loan side, you have brought loans to the levels that we want. The deposits are good and well ticking. But there are serious customer complaints in terms of mishandling. There have been instances where you have done things which can be deemed that are not true to the values of the corporation, meaning the shared values that we have, one among them being integrity. You will not be a top performer. That one I can tell you. So we don't only measure the what, we measure the how. That is how we engrave the ethical principles within the performance management system so that we can make sure at all time that a body of ethics governs our actions and our deeds. So that's how we manage the ethical dilemmas in terms of performance. How do you manage between the pursuit of performance and the strict adherence to a certain ethical standard. So they measure the what and the how, as well as that keen sense of long-termism and purpose being key to the interests that we serve is what governs us. Somebody asked about the products. I couldn't get the question quite rightly, but I heard something about interest rate, which is it's a topical issue. Allow me to highlight to you our split of revenue. So, as a bank, we are pretty much committed to ensure that we deliver a good split between the interest income as well as the non-funded income. Currently, our non-funded income streams, our non-funded income line, contributes more than 33% of the overall revenue. So it means slowly as a bank, we are moving from being interest rate-led to driving ancillary businesses within the non-funded income lines so that we ensure that mix is very well delivered. But even from an interest point of view, for some of you who are our clients, and we have many of you here, I believe, so I'm led to believe, we are one among the very most affordable banks here in Tanzania. And you can check that. So interest rates is something that we look at keenly, and how do we make sure that we continue to drive that sense of commitment towards the stakeholders, including our customers. Women are seated here today. Allow me to highlight to you the first gender bond that was ever issued within the sub-Saharan Africa. It was issued by NMB. This bond, it gives Tanzania great pleasure to be the issuer of the best sustainable bond in the world. The Jasiri bond, the NMB Jasiri bond, became the sustainable bond of the year across the globe. That bond was for what? That bond was to ensure that we provide capital as well as investments to women-led or women-owned businesses so that we bridge that funding gap that exists to women. So we are looking at sustainable ways to ensure that we continue to impact buckets of communities that are pretty much untouched in a very sustainable way, including from an interest rate perspective, that is something that you have said, but including to come up with innovative ways that will continue to accelerate the pace that we have in terms of the impact that we are driving from a customer level perspective. So we are continuously looking for ways on how we can be that bank that is pretty much sustainable. And that goes further to highlight how we link the ethical principles with sustainability leading organizations. So ethics form part of our sustainability journey, and that's why you will find that we come up with ways that continue to show and to demonstrate our commitment to sustainability as well as ethical principles. Mheshimiwa ameuliza swali kuhusu succession plan. Mheshimiwa, kama uliweza kupata nafasi na nitajitahidi ni kutumie kwenye gazeti la Citizen lililotoka juzi, if I'm not mistaken. The first paragraph inaonyesha kwamba Ruth mwenyewe, she is a product of NMB's robust succession plan. Kwamba alipoondoka mama Eneke Buzmeka, yule mama alipoondoka, the bank, they had somebody internally who could take over. As a listed bank, as such a bank of systemic importance to this country, we cannot afford to be in a situation kwamba hauna a sense of continuity. So the succession plan is there. Mimi kwa kweli sijui kwa sababu mimi ni mtu mdogo pale, lakini it is there. That one I can tell you with absolute certainty. So the succession plan is there so that we make sure that there is continuity beyond what Ruth has done. God willing, by the time, let's say, Mungu akimpa favor, she retires, there is somebody internally who is capable and ready to take over the reins so that we continue to deliver the value that we deliver for this country. So succession plan is there. Swali jingine lilikuwa linauliza how do you manage to reward ethics? So as I said earlier, our performance management system ina hizo two principles, the what and the how. Kwa hiyo part of the reward system at NMB, let it be from an increment perspective, let it be from a bonus perspective, it covers the ethics aspect. Kwamba without ethics, my friend, there is no bonus. Kwamba wewe ukiwa kwenye disciplinary process, there is no bonus. Kwa sababu, you cannot reward performance in a blind pursuit. Meaning, kwamba wewe unafuatilia tu performance, lakini huku ethics hujali. Kwa sababu that will go contrary to the principles of long-termism ambazo sisi tumejiwekea kama taasisi. Kwamba we want to be there for the long haul, we want to be there in a sustainable long-term future. Kwa hiyo ethics, conduct ya kila staff mmoja wetu, including Ruth mwenyewe, it is checked, it is judged, it is rewarded within the performance management system. Thank you so much.
Makofi mengi mengi. Makofi mengi mengi. As we conclude, mimi naomba niongee vitu vitatu ambavyo nimevichukua kwenye a day ya siku ya leo. We are here, try to grasp at least one thing and make it your goal for the next year. When we come again to the 8th conference, we should have something that we have collected from this one. Me, the first one I took, and actually he has inspired me, is on the studying. Kuna certification ya sustainability ambayo amefanya, I think from Oxford University, and I pledge myself I'll go for that. Lakini cha pili nimechukua ile vision yao, kama sio vision ni mission, hivyo hivyo, lakini mimi itakuwa mission yangu kuanzia leo, because that is how I am. Hii ya kusema performance driven but purpose led. I took that. Nitakuwa najitambulisha nayo, mjue kabisa nilichukua hapa, but it's something, kwa nini nife wakati naweza nikachukua kitu ambacho kimeshakuwa crafted? I'm taking this one with me. And in terms of transparency and ethics, kuna Gen Z mmoja nilimainstream huku ili aisikilize hii. Charity, where you are, can you stand and wave? This is my first daughter. Nimemleta kwenye hii session for learning, na ninashukuru kwamba hakuchukua mic. Maanake Gen Z wangeweza kukuta ameshanyosha kidole na kuchukua mic. Nashukuru sana TAWCA kwa kutupa hii platform. Is very important and we are growing. Thank you very much, and allow me to call you again for a round of applause, very hard one for this gentleman, for persevering, being in this room since morning, but for the excellent presentation and demonstrating that NMB, they are really having, mimi sina wasiwasi, the succession plan are there, definitely. Thank you very much, Innocent, and have a good evening.